Welcome to another episode of First Impression Sports Talk. I'm your host, Jasmine Pollock, and today we have a good show for you, so let's get started. Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. Again, I'm your host, Jasmine Pollock, and today I have a great show for you. Today we have a special guest, and his name is Kaleb Everhart. He is the host of 3 Point Stands along with the Steeler Nation. And I'm really excited to have him on because he is the biggest Steelers fan besides Cole that I know. So let's bring on Kaleb and give him a shout out and introduce himself.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
What's up, Kaleb? Thank you for being on First Impression Sports Talk. I know we were setting this up for a week now, and we are here. We're here in the front of the audience. So how are you feeling today? Are you excited to talk about the Steelers?
Oh, of course. I'm always excited to talk about the Steelers.
Yes, and there's a lot of news coming out of Steeler Nation. I know you have some of the insight going on with that. But to start the day off, we're going to talk about the NBA Finals. So both Florida teams, the Panthers and the Miami Heat, are down 3-1. Now, the biggest question is which team could potentially give a comeback or have a rally? And to me, I have the Panthers because I think the Panthers overall have battled it out throughout this whole series. But when we look at Denver, I know you said earlier you're in Colorado. I know it's going to be crazy tonight because if Denver wins, the whole city is going to erupt. The whole state is going to erupt. So let's talk about the finals. Nikola Jokic, he's going to be the finals MVP. He is having a historic season. What is your take, and how is Denver going to look after they win this tonight, which I think they will?
So Denver is going to be crazy. Thankfully, I live an hour away from Denver. I'm in Colorado Springs, so I won't have to deal with that hectic of a situation that Denver will have. I mean, the way Jokic has just been playing is, he's playing old school basketball, and with this day and age of players and the way the NBA's played now, it's like a culture shock for everybody, in my opinion. I mean, he's just like, he doesn't look like an athlete. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you see his brothers on the sidelines. I mean, they're yoked and just jacked, and then there's Nikola, who's a top 3 player in the NBA.
Yes,
and he might not be 2 or 3.
I think and I agree with everything you said. I think he is the best player right now. Now, everyone knows here on the show that I'm a huge LeBron James fan. I've been a LeBron James fan. He's my favorite player ever. But when I look at Nikola Jokic now, he's completely changing the game as a big man. We always wondered, the whole course of the NBA, the new NBA now is the 3-point, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, those guys shooting at a high percentage, Steph Curry being the number 1 3-point shooter of all time, and then Klay is second. But Nikola Jokic is putting the big man back on the map. And I think he should have won MVP this year over Joel Embiid. And I know Joel Embiid had a great season, but Nikola is about to do something, and I think they will win tonight. He's going to win Finals MVP after having 2 MVP, potentially 3 MVP seasons. He is the first player in NBA history to have 250 plus rebounds and 150 assists in one postseason. That has never been done. He is an offensive machine, and his counterpart, his Robin, is Murray. And Murray has he's also excelled in these playoffs, and they've done something that no one else has ever done either. They're the first duo in NBA history to have triple doubles in one game in the NBA Finals. So, this team right here, they put their stock in both of these guys, especially Nikola Jokic being able to do what he's doing and be able to facilitate. For the Miami Heat, though, we always wondered, the Heat's been in the finals the past few years. They've been in the Eastern Conference 8 times, but they haven't gotten over the hump of competing against these Western teams. I know before, when they're in the finals in the bubble, they played the Lakers, and now they're playing the Denver Nuggets, and they're much bigger in size. So for the Heat, if the Heat have a chance, Kaleb, what does the Heat have to do in order to beat Denver on the road in a very hostile environment?
Jimmy Buckets has to play like he has all postseason. He hasn't been. I mean, from the games that I've watched, I think I missed the last game, but he's only putting up like, 20 something points a game, where
Yeah,
the entire postseason he was putting up almost 30 to 40 a night, it felt like. I think Jimmy Buckets is the answer. He's the key. I know there's Tyler Hero is supposed to be
yeah,
inserted back in the lineup. I don't know if that will help them or hurt them more, because they had a good thing going, but they haven't been making shots either. I mean, I
that's
know a
true.
few games. The one game they won was the game they were hitting their shots. So I mean, that's all they got. I mean, obviously in basketball you got to hit your shots to win. So if you're not hitting your shots, you're probably going to lose. But
Yes.
I think Jimmy Butler is going to be a big part in hopefully that comeback. Because personally, I would like to see Jimmy Butler get a ring.
Mm-hmm. And Jimmy's been doing this for a long time. Even when LeBron was in Miami, which was over a decade ago, which is crazy. Jimmy was in Chicago, and he was doing a lot of good things for the Bulls. But I'm in Florida. I'm a Florida native. So I'm rooting for the Heat. I like Denver. I like Nikola Jokic. I like Jamal Murray. I like what they're doing. I just think it is their year. This whole season, they've been the number one seed. They've been the best team in both conferences. Nikola Jokic is still playing like an MVP, which I think, again, he deserved that third MVP. But now he's going to get a bigger MVP because I think he's going to be Finals MVP. And this has been their year. For the Heat, I think the Heat have a good team. I think Jimmy Butler's still at a good age in his prime. I think if they can go get some star players, like I know Damian Lillard's been in the conversation maybe. I know that's a big situation because he's still under contract. There's a lot going on with that. But if the Heat can go garner some star players besides the Jimmy Butler, get some star guys and get some depth, I think they're still going to be that team to beat in the East. I know they've been beating the Celtics. I know you still have Milwaukee with Giannis. You still, of course, have the 76ers with Embiid. They're going through a coaching change. There's going to be a lot of teams in the East that are still questionable, and I think the Heat right now, I think they should strike while the iron is hot. I think even though whatever happens tonight, whatever happens in the series, the Heat are in a good situation because they still have a core nucleus that they've had. But I think they need to get some star players besides Jimmy Butler to give him some alleviate his pressure. So for the Heat, like you said, I think they need to definitely make their shots. I don't know what happened from game 2 to now when they haven't made their shots. And also in game 2, they made Jokic more of a scorer than the facilitator. That's the way to beat Denver, is make Nikola Jokic a score. We know he can score 40 because he did score 40 in that game that they lost, but they're 0-3. Denver is when Nikola Jokic scores over 40 points because he's not facilitating the ball. He's most dangerous when he's having those 20, 25-point games with 15 rebounds and like 13 assists. That's when he's the most dangerous. So for the Heat, I mean, the best chance you have is making your shots. Jimmy Butler, try to go for 35 or 40. And make Nikola Jokic a scorer. Don't let the other guys get to their spots and make shots. But let's head off to the other finals that's happening right now, which is the Stanley Cup Finals. And the Panthers, also in South Florida, are down 3-1. So they're playing against the Golden Knights, and they go to the Golden Knights for Game 5, and their backs are against the wall. So, Kaleb, for you, what do the Panthers have to do in order to win and not lose this Stanley Cup or get a chance to get it to 6 or 7?
Score more goals than the other than the Golden Knights.
Yes, I agree. They have to, and I'm a Lightning fan, so of course I'm going for the Florida team, whatever. But when I look at the Panthers, their bread and butter has been their defense and their goalie Sergei Bobrovsky. He's having a very tough series. He's given up 15 goals already in this finals, so he has to play a lot better. And I know that Matthew Tkachuk, he's having some injury issues and he's questionable for Game 5. And I think that's a big deal for the Panthers. But the Golden Knights, man, throughout this whole season, they've been the team that strikes like early. They come out early, come out swinging, and they've been competitive all season. And the Panthers, they haven't really gotten on their footing. I mean, you lose a home game like you did the other night, 3-2, and you almost had a chance to come back and maybe get it to overtime, but the Panthers just couldn't cash it in. So I think they have a better chance in the Heat because besides that game 2, after they lost 7-2 on the road, the games have been close. They've been battling out with each other. They went to overtime and different things like that. So I think the Panthers have a better shot. I think if they play a lot better, I think Sergei Bobrovsky has to play a lot better than what he's played in this series alone. I think the Panthers have a chance. They've been battling out. They've been fighting each other. You know, hockey is all about fighting, but they have to be better. But that's going to be huge. I mean, both Florida teams are down 3-1. The parity of it, I think they should go out there and just see what happens. So before we head off, Kaleb, what are you looking forward to the most? I know we're going to talk about the NFL, but let's just get, just start by saying this. Heading into the NFL season, what are you expecting? I know there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of people moving around. We're going to talk about Saquon Barkley later. What are your expectations for this NFL season? Is it going to be better than last season? Because I know there were some things going on, but do you think things will improve in the NFL?
Improve, like as in
officiating.
Oof, probably not. I mean, they're already watering down the game with the new kickoff return rule, where it's more reverted to the college. You can fair catch it at the 1 yard line and get it at the 25. I mean, it's just a part of the process of making the game safer. But for fans and a lot of NFL players, I mean, they've talked about it many times. No, Mike Mitchell has a historic rant years ago. He's like, we know what we signed up for. Don't water down the game that we love, or anything like that. We know what we signed up for. If you want to get out, get out. If not, you know what the game is. It's a physical game.
And also, even to piggyback off what you said, is definitely they're protecting the quarterback now, where it's a more offensive-driven league now. Defenses are not as lethal as they were before, like your Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens back in the day, where you had some hard hitters on the teams now. Now they're making it very hard for the defender, which, I have my ups and downs about it. I have my stripes about it, but it's more of an offensive-driven league now. We have 40-point games, 30-point games, same thing in the NBA. Things are completely changing. It's not as defensive as it once was, and I wonder if it'll ever change. Like, will we ever see that go back to those times where it was, tough and physical? Will we ever see that where the run game is physical and stout? So we'll definitely see what's going to happen. I'm looking forward to this NFL season. Not for my Packers, though. I'm not looking forward to that. But before that wraps up the first segment. When we come back, we're going to talk about Saquon Barkley sitting out for the 2023 season. He wants a big contract, and the Steelers' hopes of winning the AFC North. So when we come back, we're going to talk all things NFL.
Renting is everything. It's style at your doorstep. Off the runway and into your closet. It's every trend you've been dying to try and every designer you've yet to discover. It's wearing it your way every time and making it count everywhere you go. It's never worrying about what to wear because something new is always coming your way. That's why renting is everything. New styles, top designers, all for a flat monthly fee. Start your subscription at renttherunway.com.
Slow roasted over hickory fire and pulled by hand. This is the way pit pork has always been done. Pulled pork lovers, rejoice. The smoky old days are back at the Smoke Shack. From the creative team that brought you The Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
You're watching Jasmine Pollock's First Impressions Sports Talk. Be sure to join Jasmine every week for great conversation on the NBA, NFL, and a wide variety of sports topics. To see past episodes of First Impressions Sports Talk, go to YouTube and search First Impressions Sports Talk. You can connect with Jasmine on LinkedIn by searching Jasmine Pollock. And now, back to more First Impressions Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. I'm your host, Jasmine Pollock. If you'd like to get in contact with me, please check out my Twitter, which is @JazzyS. You can see me tweet about live sports events and different things like that, different sports news topics. Also, please check out First Impression Sports Talk YouTube channel. You can check out First Impression Sports Talk, all of the episodes and all the interviews that I do right there on my YouTube. And on LinkedIn, please check out Jasmine Pollock, and you can find my website, which is jasmineonsports.com. So let's bring back on Kaleb, and we're going to have a conversation about the NFL. You know, we're still waiting. You know, the NBA season's about to be over. The hockey season's about to be over. Now the NFL is about to get crunk again. I'm so excited for it. So, Kaleb, let's talk about Saquon Barkley. Now, my mom is a huge Giants fan, so I know she wants to get some insight about what I'm going to say. So, Saquon Barkley is not attending Giants minicamp because obviously he wants to get paid. He wants that big contract. He's potentially considering sitting out for this 2023 season. He was 4th in the league in rushing. He was a huge reason why they made it in the playoffs and did very well in the playoffs, even though they, got destroyed at Philadelphia in the divisional round. So what is your take on Saquon Barkley, and what does this mean for the future between him and the Giants?
I think once they pay Daniel Jones that contract, which I'm not saying Daniel Jones' contract's all based off of Brian Daboll.
Yes.
And what he was able to do with Josh Allen in Buffalo, he was able to carry over and kind of get a little bit of the same results as Josh Allen with Daniel Jones. Obviously, Daniel Jones is no Josh Allen, but no. I think the writing was on the wall once they gave Daniel Jones that contract. It kind of like you took a whole lot of money that could have gone to Saquon away. And yes, Saquon's had injuries in the past and everything like that, but he is as advertised when he's healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, when healthy, he's maybe the best athlete in the NFL.
He is. He's lethal. Even when he was at Penn State, I remember he was running over people. So, I mean, this is a big deal for the Giants because Saquon Barkley is probably, to me, the face of this team. Daniel Jones, he had a great season. He improved greatly, but it's still Saquon Barkley's team. So I think they need to get it together because you're not going to find Saquon Barkley's everywhere. He's a very, very good asset. When he is healthy, he's very lethal. And I do follow him in different things like that. And he's, in the gym working out, making sure his body's right, making sure he's prepared for next season. It's not like he doesn't want to play. He just wants that big contract. And like you said, when they gave Daniel Jones that extension, it's like, okay, he improved. There was improvement, but it's like, okay, what does that mean? Like, it's still Saquon's team, him running the ball, him doing different things and being that lethal weapon that they need. And I know they just received Darren Waller from the Raiders, so that's also a huge asset for them. And the Giants are going to be a good team in the NFC East. Of course, you have the Cowboys. Those Eagles are going to be dangerous. Then you have the Commanders. But I think if they can't get this deal done, someone's going to get Saquon. I mean, somebody's going to put him in a situation, kind of like a Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers situation when he was in Carolina, getting injured, getting all those different things happening. And then he goes to the 49ers, ridiculous. I mean, they completely changed his whole way of doing things. So I feel like if I'm the Giants, you need to pay him. He is the reason why you've been relevant for a while now. Now you added Darren Waller, you drafted very well. And now you have a running back that can catch the ball in the backfield, can run the ball between the tackles. Keep these guys, keep a young nucleus with Daniel Jones in order to be successful. So let's head to your Steelers now. There's conversations about that. Chase Young to the Steelers. That's been the talk of the town. What is your opinion, and will your Steelers make that move?
Personally, I hope so because I'm a Steelers fan, but I'm also an Ohio State fan, so I've been a fan of Chase Young for a long time. There's clips from a few years ago when I think it was the COVID year. Washington was the first team to beat the Steelers that year. I think it was Chase Young's rookie year. And Tomlin verbally said, I will not lose enough games to get a guy like you. Well, now that guy's available, and there's a reason the Steelers do their homework on those top guys for later down the line when situations like this happen. I mean, they did homework on Minkah Fitzpatrick. Lo and behold, a year later, he was a Steeler because of situations in Miami.
Yes.
I mean, I love the idea of it. I know they just signed Marcus Golden. I know Alex Highsmith's on a contract year. I think Alex Highsmith's still going to get paid. But in my opinion, if you get Chase Young, you have – because they TJ Watt and those outside linebackers, they rotate continually. So they're ready for the fourth quarter. So if you tell me that you're going to have TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and you rotate them with Chase Young and Marcus Golden, I mean, that's
lethal.
I mean, I'm not saying Chase Young is TJ Watt, but there's not much of a downgrade between rotations.
I agree. And if I'm the Steelers, I'm going to make that move as well because the direction the Commanders are headed is not a good direction. And it's going to waste Chase Young because I was a Chase Young fan when he was playing with Ohio State. I'm not an Ohio State fan, but I was a huge Chase Young fan. What he was able to bring to the table and how he used to wreak havoc on the defensive line for Ohio State. I mean, he was an animal. Then he goes in the league. I know he had a very nasty injury, and he had to recover from that. But I think we got to give him a chance. I think if you add him with TJ Watt and those guys like that, they're going to be very lethal, especially in the division against a Joe Burrow, against Lamar Jackson, who's happy now, a Deshaun Watson, who's, going to try to revamp his career. You got to get guys like that to add some pressure on those quarterbacks. And when we look at the Achilles heel of the Bengals has been their offensive line. There has been some weakness for them. Joe Burrow's constantly getting sacked. So you add somebody like that to give them issues, that's going to be a big deal for them. And then, of course, a lot of people can't stop Lamar Jackson, but it's like you need the help. Add somebody outside, somebody that can rotate and do different things like that to add some pressure on opposing offenses. Now, let's go to the offensive side of the ball, Kaleb. So you guys greatly improved your offensive line. You guys drafted some very good players. You drafted the offensive tackle out of Georgia. Georgia was the defending champs. They had a great team. You get some guys in free agency to bulk up that offensive line. So everybody's watching the offensive line for the Steelers because last year, Kenny Pickett, he 21% of his drop back passes, he was pressured. Yeah. So that's a big deal especially for your young quarterback. He needs that protection and give him time to throw the ball. So do you expect a drastic change with your offensive line, or is it going to be, some growing pains?
I think there'll obviously be growing pains if Broderick Jones starts week 1. Obviously, he's a rookie. His first game is going to be against Nick Bosa in San Francisco. And, there's going to be growing pains, but to whoever's at left tackle, whether it's Dan Moore, Broderick Jones, they're going to have that solid veteran left guard now in Isaac Seumalo, who they picked up from the Eagles, who I think it was Jason Kelsey said he's one of the smartest people football-wise he's ever been around. So I think if everything goes right, with the additions we've made and who we still have on the offensive line, that could be a top 5 offensive line. And the direction they're heading is going more towards the smash mouth football where the rest of the league is, we're going to, dink and dunk all over the field, kind of like the Chiefs do, which, it works for them. But a way to beat that is have an offense that's going to ground and pound their way all the way down the field. And then with a quarterback like Kenny Pickett, who isn't going to, force anything. He's going to make the smart play. He's going to do this. He's going to do he's the perfect quarterback for smash mouth football. And, even if we wanted to go into, the passing game or whatever, we have Deontay Johnson, who had sort of an off year last year. He didn't have any touchdowns. But then you add, Pat Freiermuth, George Pickens, Darnell Washington, Connor Hayward, Allen Robinson. not a lot of people know of Calvin Austin, who was one of the fastest guys last year at the combine. He was just out all year with injury. I think he's going to do big things. I mean, it's a stacked offense, and it's all going to be based off the offensive line play and where they go from there. I hope it's top 5 offensive line, because the top 5 offensive line, I think the Steelers can win the North.
Yes. How I'm looking at the Steelers right now, I was watching, so I had a draft show during that, and that's when I had my other guest, Cole, who I said is a huge Steelers fan. He is very harsh. He wanted that offensive tackle. He wanted that so bad, and he wanted, like, if we can get some offensive pieces, offensive tackle that can protect Kenny Pickett and give Najee Harris some lanes to run through. He said the Steelers are going to be good. The Steelers are one of those franchises that's one of the most dynamic franchises in sports, all of sports. So it used to be fresh. I'm like, I look at the Ravens and I look at the Steelers, and I'm like, this is not Steeler and Raven football. Like, this is not what they are known for. So now that the Steelers are getting, all right, we're going to start back and we're going to get some offensive pieces. We're going to get some more defenders. And I think they did very good in the draft, getting some good defensive pieces. Now you add that, I think they could easily be a top 5 offensive line. And then especially when you look in the division, I'm not really sold yet on the Ravens defense yet. I have to see. I know they added some people, but I still need to see a lot more. The Bengals defense is here and there. They've improved greatly, but I think their biggest strength is their offense and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. But the Steelers have a major chance. I mean, they've been winning, had a winning season ever since Mike Tomlin's been the head coach. So, I mean, all the Steelers fans, Cole's like he needs to be fired. I don't think Mike Tomlin needs to be fired. He's been winning. You guys could have went to the playoffs, but the Dolphins ended up winning that last game. There was potential there. So it wasn't like the Steelers were like, oh, they're 4-12 or something like that. They were 9-8. They had a winning season. They just needed to add certain pieces. I think those pieces now are added, and that gives them a chance to compete. And I think Najee Harris is a great running back. I just think he's been dinged up, and there's things that weren't opened up for him, and it was just a bad situation. But for Najee Harris, now I know they were 25th in the league in rushing. Do you see him improving for himself and being maybe a top 5, top 10 running back this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think even last year, I mean, the first half of the season he was dealing with I think it was the Lenz Frank injury in his foot. So he was playing with the steel plate in his foot, as well as, we had, for the most part, an entire new offensive line last year that was learning to work together and learning to gel together. And then after the bye week, things started rolling. And if, excuse me, I might be wrong on the statistic wise, but that second half of the season, if you take away that first half, the Steelers were already top 5 in rushing. And that was also due to the help and rise of Jaylen Warren, who was an undrafted guy last year, who's, he kind of reminds me of a Doug Martin, kind of Maurice Jones-Drew type of back. And then kind of to piggyback off what you were talking about, the defensive pieces that were picked up, like you said, Cole, he was big on getting the offensive tackle, which was huge, which I think a lot of Steelers fans thought we would address in the draft. When we went and they got their guy Broderick, and then lo and behold, the number 1 corner on most Steelers fans' boards was Joey Porter Jr. We ended up getting him thanks to the Bears for the Chase Claypool trade. And then the reports out of OTA so far is our 7th round pick, cornerback Corey Trice out of Purdue, has been lighting it up too. And you got to think we added Patrick Peterson to that room. So you got those 2 young guys being able to learn from a Hall of Famer in that aspect. And then we have Levi Wallace, who was a good pickup last year. We got Minka. I mean, there's really not many holes, like you said. I mean, Omar Khan did his thing, and he filled every hole needed. Even if, like, let's say we don't get Chase Young and Marcus Golden is just that third rotational linebacker that they like to have. I mean, that's still a win.
Yes.
Regardless, he didn't have the sack numbers last year, but I think the year before, or it was the year before that, he was a double-digit sack guy, and he's a top run stuffer in the NFL too. And then they picked up Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin, and he's kind of like that Javon Hargrave type who the Niners just paid massively, who the Steelers originally drafted. So, I mean, the weaknesses on the defensive side were it wasn't necessarily corner last year.
It wasn't.
It was more of the middle linebackers, and then not having that, solid defensive tackle. Yes, they have Cam Hayward. He's a defensive end. They have Larry Ogunjobi, and then they drafted DeMarvin Leal, who I expect to continue his trend, and he's going to be a solid player, potentially the replacement for Hayward when that time comes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they got rid of Devin Bush. Miles Jack's gone. They picked up Cole Holcomb and Elandon Roberts. And then another rookie they drafted last year, Mark Robinson. I expect big things from. He's been lighting up in camp too, so it sounds like he's putting his game together, and he could be a Vince Williams-esque linebacker for the Steelers. And we actually talked about that with Ryan Shazier on our last episode of the 3-point stance. It was big things. I mean, I can't think of many holes.
I don't see
anywhere on the team.
I just think it's all about just putting it together and just it all, coming together when the season starts. Yeah. And I have the Steelers. I always tell my parents, and they've told me watching football, Steelers are always a dark horse team. It's just how they're built. It's just the franchise, what the franchise means, all the Hall of Famers that have come out that franchise and future Hall of Famers that are coming. They know how to just rally and do things like, man, the Steelers know how to just turn on the light switch. They just know how to do it. And now they have a young team that could potentially be dangerous. I mean, for years to come. I mean, Kenny Pickett, I think he's a good quarterback. I do. Watching him at Pitt, watching him his first season, there's some things that, of course, he can work on. But now you give him that offensive line, and you have a running back in Najee Harris that he can hand the ball off to. You're going to give him an opportunity to show what he can do, especially in the division against the Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Deshaun Watson. So, of course, he's probably the people looking at him as the bottom of the crop and different things like that. But I think he's going to show people this year. I think the Steelers are a dark horse team that could potentially be easily a playoff team. I see them being a playoff team. I know Jay, he's a huge Steelers fan. I know the Steelers are doing this. I'm like, have faith in your team, because I'm like, you guys are a legitimate threat. You are. And I think with Mike Tomlin, I think he's had many winning seasons, never had a losing season as a tenure as a head coach. And now you have a young team that we can do some stuff. So I think the Steelers are a very dangerous team, and I think people need to watch out for sure. They're in a better shape than my Packers. They're in a better shape than my Packers. So, I mean, that's what I have to say. So that, again, thank you, Kaleb, for being on the show. We'll definitely have you on more to talk about the Steelers, because I know as the season gets closer, we're going to continue to talk and continue to see what's going to happen. But before we get out of here, is there any social media platforms? How can people get in contact with you and even watch your show, The 3-Point Stance, on the SteelerNation.com?
So to follow our episodes on the 3-Point Stance, you will follow the Steeler Nation Multimedia YouTube page. We have our own playlist on there. We do have our own YouTube page. We're waiting to build that up, and then we'll start posting content on there as well. For now, we're doing Reels. As far as Twitter, you can follow me at CalebDGAF. My co-host, he's at Team Gray, with 2 Y's at the end of Gray. He currently plays for the Birmingham Stallions. He's a former player for the Steelers, Jags, and Titans. Hopefully he makes his way back into the NFL. As far as contacting me, I mean, I'm pretty open. I'll talk to anybody, answer to anybody. Thanks to you guys for reaching out to me. This was a lot of fun. Like I said before, this is the first time anybody's reached out to me to come onto their show. So thank you for that. It's been fun, and I can't wait to do this again, like you said.
Yes, I'm really excited. This was a great conversation. And I just can't wait for you to meet Cole and Jeremiah. They are some huge sports fans. So I'm really trying to get all of us on one show so we can all talk about it. But again, thank you, Kaleb. And thank you to our producers, Jay and Remy, for constantly doing great work. Thank you, Leon, for getting us connected and giving us this opportunity to speak and talk all things sports. That wraps up First Impression Sports Talk. I will see you all next week. We're going to be talking more about the NFL as the NFL gets started, and college football is also getting close. I'm really excited about that as well. So that wraps up First Impression Sports Talk. See you next time for more.